WNST, busy doing Thursday games. He's doing NFL Network. He's out there tweeting, of course, as Coach Billick, and breaking down the playbook as well on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation here at WNST.net. Coach, I've seen a lot of things, man. I woke up on Sunday morning, and I'm watching Vrabel do his thing over there in London, and, of course, he's the village idiot because he goes for two and then has a long flight home after not making it. And then Mr. Automatic, I mean, only 222 out of 222, and misses an extra point of all things. And I guess we knew when the rule was going to change and they were going to move things back. We just didn't think it was going to happen to us, right?
No, particularly not with Tucker. I mean, my gosh. And the look on his face. First off, that was a heck of a game. I know it's painful for the Ravens. There's no shame in losing to what appears to be a really, really good New Orleans Saints team, particularly with a Hall of Famer Drew Brees at quarterback. And I know that's painful, but if you're going to have to lose a home game, then it needs to be to a team like this. And I think it still bodes well for the Ravens going forward. But I think the look on Tucker's face said it all. It was like, I can't, and believe me, I know a little something about someone missing a field goal at the end of the game.
It's kind of how you and I met.
in a surprised way that, it was stunning. And yet, you know, you got to give the Ravens credit for coming back the way they did in that last drive. That showed a lot. And so in a game that you look at the numbers, I mean, if you were to hide the teams as to who had what first downs and third down conversion and yardage and all that, you'd be hard pressed to say, okay, which one of these teams won the game and which one of these teams lost.
Well, what do we make of this at this point? And feeling like this is a better team. Obviously, Cleveland game notwithstanding, falling behind 3 touchdowns in Cincinnati on short rest on the road. This is obviously, I think it's changed our minds as to what this team can be, because I was believing this could be an 11 or 12 win team. I think that becomes harder and harder when you continue to drop these kind of games, and we're 3 losses before we get to the bye. Look, 10 wins might win the division at this point. Cincinnati didn't look any great shakes. Pittsburgh took a week off. 10 might be the number here. And across the league, maybe we are finding a little bit more of a middling thing in the NFC North as well. But I have higher expectations for this team than what I think we saw on Sunday, which is losing by a point in sort of an impolite way.
Well, I think you have to change your reference frame. I think everybody does in terms of when you look at your team, with the exception of the Rams, who looks just overpowering. And we're going to find out about the Saints. The Saints go to Carolina. The Ravens go to Carolina. And we're going to find out about exactly, winning at home. You and I have talked about it many times before. The formula is win at home, split on the road. Beat the teams you're supposed to beat, and split with the good teams. Well, you lost at home to a really good team. There's no shame in that. But you got to get that back on the road now. And this week is the week to do it. I think this is going to be a very telling week for the Ravens. Can they go on the road against the Carolina team that looks pretty good, is running the ball very well? And that was probably the one thing that if you want to look at it, to give up 134 rushing yards to the Saints, who are running the ball very well. It's not like, this is a slappy running team. And now you're facing a Panther team that's a top 5 rushing team in a unique way, and that Cam Newton's a big part of that as well. That's really the challenge for the Ravens. And this New Orleans team, they go to Minnesota. Can you imagine back-to-back games at Baltimore and at Minnesota? So we're going to find out about the Saints as well in terms of just how dominant they really are compared to, the Rams. But we're seeing, with the exception of those teams, and maybe Kansas City, Patriots, I still wouldn't put in that category. They almost lost to the Bears. Everybody is going to have, 12-4 is a heck of a record. 11-5 in today's NFL, as competitive, as balanced as it is, as good as you may be, you're going to have some games and sometimes look good. So like I said before, with the exception of just a couple, I don't think there's any dominant teams. There's certainly not any dominant teams in the AFC North right now. There's some good teams. We may even see 2 teams from the AFC North, and I don't think I would have said this going into the season. So I don't know that the Ravens or the Steelers or certainly Cincinnati or certainly not the Browns are dominant teams. That doesn't mean they're not good teams.
All right, Coach, on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation is Coach Brian Billick All of it brought to you by our friends at Royal Farms. Real fresh, real fast, and a 99-cent coffee in your cup each and every morning, and the chicken to drive you home. Coach, where are you on this offense at this point? I mean, you spent your whole life breaking offenses apart and putting them together and trying to utilize various pieces. This is a nice complementary set that Marty Morningwig has here. I think we saw this kid Hill coming in and becoming sort of that X/factor in a Wildcat offense, and the RPOs and all of that stuff for Drew Brees effectively on Sunday. We're all waiting on this Lamar Jackson thing, and I know it's easy to say, well, maybe you bring him in on the two-point conversion instead of kicking the ball into the wind and all that stuff. Maybe you win the game, but where are you with the Ravens offense? Because they're week to week, again, it feels to me like they can put up 27 or 30 in any given week, that they have weapons, but they haven't really committed to the run game. We're halfway through the season now. They're not a running team. They don't want to be a running team. They can talk about it, but now the weather's changing a little bit. Maybe there will come a point for that. And the offensive line was missing 2 of its 5 starters on Sunday as well, and I thought did pretty well in spite of that.
I think, and this is maybe going out there a little bit, but I think this may be a more complete team, meaning offense, defense, running, passing, rush defense, pass defense, pressure. This may be a more complete team than the 2012 Super Bowl team. Now, that's going out, and I'm not saying that slam dunk, let's not be making your plans in Atlanta just late yet. But I'm talking about the balance between the offense and the defense. This is clearly a better offense, to my mind, than the 2012 offense. And Joe's playing well. They're running well enough. You're not dominant. I get that.
See, I would dispute that because they don't have a Ray Rice. They don't have that factor, and I haven't seen the Pitta develop yet. I see the wide receivers, and I think that Joe is 6 years more removed in all of this, but I'd love to see what Ray Rice represented, what Kamara represents on the other side of the ball on Sunday, right?
And again, listen to what I said now, that they, in totality, I think they're better because of the way that they've got pieced together. So if there's any aspect of the 2012 team that you can look at and say, my God, yes, of course they're better than this team. I got that. But I'm saying if you add all the pieces up, what they don't have is the running back out of the backfield that Ray Rice gave them. And I agree with you. They talked about that coming into the season. They wanted to expand that on Alex Collins a little bit, and they have to a certain degree. Joe is clearly playing better than he did in the 2012. I think they have a better comprehensive receiver group. And you could compare the top numbers with, so that's what I'm saying. In totality. Now, does that all add up to be a Super Bowl team? We'll see. But what the point being is I think there's some potential there, not the least of which Joe is playing better. And so that's, the defense still is pretty darn good. That defensive line, I did a special on them last week for Playbook. And just how good that defensive line is. You knew that coming in, conjunction with the linebackers and the like. So, but keeping in mind that the league is so much more balanced now, this is the way it's going to be. And then now it's just a matter of gutting out those tough losses, and being able to, flip that around and change the script. That's why I think this is going to be a big week. They are capable of going on the road. Again, they're on the road, going to Carolina. Against a team that's feeling really good right now. Plays pretty good defense, much better defense. Carolina's a better defense than New Orleans' defense is, with Luke Kuechly and the way they're going. So it's going to be a bigger challenge for them. Certainly, I don't know that Carolina's the threat offensively the way New Orleans is, although their running game is a better running game, I think, Carolina's, and the uniqueness of Cam Newton, who they're not shy about running now. And Cam's actually throwing the ball down the field vertical a little better than he has. So it's on the road, and so this is a big. It's not do or die and must game for the Ravens by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a big game, like they all are, to be able to, after a tough loss on the road, go and beat a good team and steal back. Like I told you, what's the formula? Win at home, split on the road, beat the teams you're supposed to beat, and split with the good teams. Well, if you can go on the road, get a win against a good team, you're pulling one of those home losses against a good team back into your category.
Pittsburgh bye and Cincinnati after this trip down to Charlotte. Hey, Coach Brian Billick, our partner on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation, joining us here. And, of course, you can find him at the NFL Network, also working on Thursday nights, also at Coach Billick out on Twitter. Coach, a lot of hurt feelings around here. Let's start with Tucker and Jimmy Smith, who had not such a great game. And then something else that's happened this year. In recent years, it's been hard for Flacco to even find open receivers and dirting the ball and running around gimpy in his leg brace and all of that. So we haven't seen any of that, but we've seen a lot of drop balls, but we've also seen a lot of open receivers, right? So schematically and I guess just on a talent basis, what John Brown and Willie Snead and Crabtree have managed to do is it feels like every single time Joe drops back, somebody's going to be open. Then it's a matter of timing and whether Joe can get him the ball. But these are different. This is a different group here for sure.
It is, and part of the reasons the drops is part of the reasons that Crabtree and that these guys are here, because they've all had a little bit of a history of the drops. If they didn't, because we know what the talent is, that's clear cut. But if it weren't for the drops, they'd still be with their original team. And so, that's just part of the history. And obviously they want to work because they're good receivers, across the board, but that has been an issue. And then also in terms of Joe, you can imagine with the offensive line being in flux a little bit, it would not be natural for Joe with guys rolling through that offensive line, dropping back and maybe eyeballing that line just a little. Am I okay here? Am I safe? Am I going to have the time to get to the top of my drop and throw the ball? And so, can I do that and scan 53 1/3 yards across the field at the right guy at the right time, to see who's open? So there's a lot going on.
Head Coach Brian Billick joining us here on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation. And, you're doing the breakdowns and the playbooks and all that stuff. And I know Baldy does his breakdowns as well at the network. And you talk about the Ravens D-line. How much has the game changed since you left the game in regard to what we're seeing with these passing offenses? I mean, I couldn't help but be moved to say you might not recognize it, or Denny Green from 15 years ago, where you had two offenses with a Hall of Fame quarterback on one side and a Hall of pretty good Super Bowl MVP on the other side, who, as you've admitted, may be playing the best football of his career and looks re-inspired here in his 30s. And yet you get down on the goal line and here comes a slash quarterback and something different. And Marty Morningwing and offensive coordinators, this is sort of a fun tool for you to have in your golf bag, right, to have this. But how it can be utilized and utilized effectively where you really feel like, wow, that's something special that no one else has. I'm not there yet on Lamar Jackson, Coach.
Well, and fairly so. I mean, we just haven't seen enough. But I've got to backtrack a little bit because I'm not a real fan of that wildcat. If you have a really good quarterback, I mean, I'm not sure. And my analogy had always been, well, in a critical situation, are you going to see Peyton Manning? Are you going to see Tom Brady? Are you going to see Aaron Rodgers? You're going to see Drew Brees come off the field. Well, in all fairness, we did see Drew Brees get moved out of the quarterback. Taysom Hill came in.
I saw the 32, Coach, in the middle of the field. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait, this is dogs and cats. This doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, and so I have to, I got to remove Drew Brees. Now, does Drew Brees like it? I don't know. He's pretty effective, this Taysom Hill kid from BYU. And so putting Lamar Jackson in obviously has some validity to it. I know Joe probably doesn't like it. If it works, it's great. If it doesn't, it's what are you doing? Why are you taking the ball in my hands? Drew Brees, I'm sure, the same way. Taysom Hill comes in and it works, which it did for the most part. That I'm cool. But if it doesn't, then why are you taking the ball out of my hands? Has the game changed? To a degree, yeah, it's opened up a little bit. I don't think it's changed as much as some people think, and I don't think we've become the college game, even though it's real easy. You look at Kansas City and say, oh, God, yeah, it's all, you might as well play college style of offense now. But I will say it has changed in the sense that, and we've talked about this before, when I was in the league, it was beginning to change and had where it used to be you're in base defense 60% of the time, nickel defense 40%. it was beginning to change where it became you're in base 40% and in nickel 60%. And I've had a number of defensive coordinators tell me, I remember Coach Martindale, when I asked him in the preseason, how much base do you think you'll be in during the season? He said maybe less than 25%. So, yes, it has. So everybody's talking about where you are 40-man, 4-man front, 3-man front, 34 defense, 43 deep. No, everybody's nickel defense now, and everybody's gotten a little bit smaller, which lends itself to those teams that say, you know what, we're going to line up and play smash ball, big defense, because a big offense, because you don't have the people on your team anymore because everybody's gotten smaller and faster. I think that's a legitimate point.
And you also need 17 starters, not 11, right? Literally.
What's that?
You need 17 starters, not
Absolutely.
11. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, and you need, and it's the age of specialization. I don't need just a corner. I need a slot corner. I need a nickel corner. I need a box safety. I need a free safety on the back end. I need a rush defensive nickel end. I need a hold the point defensive end versus the run. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. So the makeup of a defense and the numbers that you need, have indeed changed.
You like that kid because he was BYU. Just admit it, right?
Well, it's good. You know, I wish he had done that at BYU. Would have won some more games.
Head coach Brian Billick joining us here. You can follow him out on Twitter at NFL Network. Let's get around the league a little bit. Let's start with and we'll get back to Cincinnati and Pittsburgh and where we are, but circling around the first place Washington Redskins. I stand a little shocked by that, and certainly the Eagles, and we can get into that with Carolina beating them, but it's tough being the champs, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And as I always say, you know, God bless America, because the only reason, and I'm not the only reason, I shouldn't say that, but the Redskins, it's great to be in a division that sucks. You know, I mean, that's a big part of it.
Patriots have had that going on for like the whole century.
Yeah, but that's okay. You know, it's the same, hey, just get me to the playoffs. And we'll see where we go from here. In like anybody in the playoffs, with the exception maybe the Rams in the NFC, you know, now New Orleans. But the Redskins are right there. Now, there's only going to be one team coming out of the NFC East, so we got a lot of football left to play. But who's going to challenge them? Certainly not the Cowboys. Certainly, we already just found that out. Certainly not the Giants. So can Philadelphia rebound? And I think you have to, you know, I wouldn't write Philadelphia off just yet. That was, you know, the fact that they kind of fell apart in the fourth quarter. Carson Wentz is actually playing better over his first 5 games this year than he did last year. Now that he's gotten back into his rhythm, they've got to play better as a team. That defense is still pretty good, but fell apart in the fourth quarter. In fact, I'm about to sit down and look at the film to see exactly what happened in that game. So I don't know that, you know, because there's just one game back of the Redskins. So this will be interesting. There's a lot left to be played, but it's going to come down to the 2, and only one's going to make the playoffs.
Boy, Cincinnati just went out to Kansas City, and it was like they should have stayed home. And Kansas City, boy, you have to be impressed by what they did with the Patriots, even in, you know, a noble defeat, and then come back at home and just hold serve. Looks like what Andy has built out there, and you know, when you have a kid that can play like that kid can play, it changes everything, right?
Oh, it's special, you know, and I don't know that going into Kansas City this year, as well as they're playing, a lot of teams are going to not look good like that. I can't wait to see the Ravens and Kansas City play, because the key becomes, one, are you good enough defensively? And I don't think Cincinnati is. Pittsburgh wasn't. I think Baltimore is. I think the Rams are. When you talk about the really good defenses. So I can't wait to see not as a test for the Ravens necessarily, but more because it's at the Chiefs. But I want to see how the Chiefs hold up against that Raven defense and against an offense that, as we just said, is pretty good, because the Chiefs defense is you know, they've got some issues. They're good, they're okay, but they're not great. But they don't have to be, because their offense is so good. So I'm very anxious to see, not by way of test of the Ravens, which would be great, but more to see, to me, that's the game I want to see before I absolutely say, okay, boy, the Chiefs are going to be the team to beat in the playoffs.
Coach Billick is a California man. He grew up out there in the suburbs of Los Angeles back in the days when the Rams were the Rams, and now they're back, and the Chargers are there. How about two L.A. teams in the playoffs, Coach? I mean, not just what the Rams are doing, which is going on the road up to San Francisco, winning by 3 touchdowns, but how about the Chargers also winning halfway around the world, and the Ravens are going to have to go play in Kansas City. They're going to have to go play out in L.A. Christmas week as well. The Chargers are going to be one of those teams in the way, certainly for a crowded wild card, if nothing else, if you think Kansas City's going to run away and hide. But the Chargers feel real to me, and the LA two football teams in the playoffs 5 years ago didn't have a team, right?
Yeah, and LA fans, this is my group, so I can say this.
Your people.
And they're my people, so when you rip your own people, that's okay. LA fans are the best in the league when they're winning.
Front runner.
Yeah, they're non-existent. When
everybody's a Dodgers fan this week too, right? It's suddenly, right?
Yeah, if there's a blimp in the road, they're gone. They're heading to the beach and they're off it. But if they got things going, they are phenomenal fans. Yeah, they're front runners and jump on the bandwagon. Having said that, there's nothing like the Coliseum when things are rocking, and even the Chargers, who are playing basically in a high school stadium. You got to give them credit. In the environment that they're, and by the way, I fly in over that new stadium they're building every time I go to LA. Wow. It's going to be pretty spectacular.
Last time I was there was a bunch of dirt, like I saw it because it's right next to the LA. You get it on the approach going in. It's more than that now, right?
The infrastructure, you're beginning to see it. It's beginning to look like the real deal. It's going to be pretty spectacular. But yeah, and so they got it rocking and rolling there. And the Chargers are a pretty good football team. They really are. They're like everybody. They all of a sudden they have a game and go, God, where'd that come from? So like I said, everybody other than the Rams is kind of in that, and the Chiefs are kind of in that category to where, again, your expectation, yes, could they be a playoff team? Could they do some damage? Phillip Rivers is, maybe a Hall of Famer in some people's mind, could be. But they're capable of having games too. We've seen them play games where it's like, God, where'd that come from? So the whole league's it's kind of exciting. Makes everything very, very competitive.
Coach, I'm gonna bring you back and have you be the new coach of the London whatever. I'm gonna pay you $20 million a year, and I'm gonna give you Blake Bortles to be your quarterback. What do you think?
Wow. It shows you, because I was very critical of Blake Bortles last year. Critical coming into the season. Did a couple things on playbook early on where I thought, you know what? This guy's maybe beginning to get it. I'm seeing some things on third down. Obviously, the game he had against the Patriots. So it's like anything. I'm like the guy in The Godfather. Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in.
Well, it felt that way with him. It felt like they went back all in with him after the playoff run last year, and it felt like a lot of people were saying, "Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Go in on Cousins or Alex Smith. Don't go in all in on Blake Bortles," and they did. And this doesn't look good for them right now, right?
And the biggest concern beyond Bortles, and yes, everything you said is probably correct. We don't know that they didn't go after those guys. They just couldn't step up to the plate and pay the freight, so they went with Bortles. But they're not running the ball very well. Their formula is playing great defense, running the ball. The other thing is, and I know right now, and it bristles me as a coach, because I'm seeing Jalen Ramsey and some of the guys alluding to, boy, I don't know why we're losing. This is tough. Well, we all know why, but we can't say, putting it on the offense. That defense, there are some examples in the game where particularly the secondary guys, just flat turned it down and gave up. Didn't even try to make a tackle or take a guy on to keep him out of the end zone. So they got a few more issues beyond it. Right now, it's really easy to focus on Blake Bortles, but they're not playing as physical on defense, and they're not running the ball. Now, Fournette's out. I get that. So there's any number of reasons for it. But last year it was play great defense, run the ball, physical, don't turn it over, and we find ourselves in the AFC Championship game. Well, they're not doing any of that right now.
Coach, we're all going to dust off and lick our purple wounds around here after missing an extra point. Of all the storylines, that we sit here and we talk about offense and defense and breeze and matchups and all that we'd be thinking about Justin Tucker would miss an extra point. Like, that just seems like the most unlikely Vegas bet of all time in Baltimore, right?
Well, I'll tell you something, and it's very, very current right now. What would you put higher odds at? Betting and winning the lottery at $1.6 billion, or Justin Tucker missing an extra point?
Oh, I would have thought I'd been a billionaire.
Yeah, exactly right. So if you're betting on one or against one or the other, now, so what does that tell you? All it takes is that one.
Well, maybe
the one person that wins it doesn't care what those odds are. Well, the one hit that I miss, Justin Tucker right now, you're right. That he'll be back. I was watching the game going, boy, the Saints desperately needed that last field goal because if this came down to a field goal game, you knew they were going to lose, meaning the Saints, because you got Justin Tucker, and if they got anywhere in field goal range, he'd have probably hit a 50-yarder or a 55-yarder or even a 60-yarder if he had to win the game. So once they got that separation, I thought, okay, well, the Saints have dodged a bullet here. Well, they ended up going the length of the field and missing the extra point. So, well, that's why they play the game, right?
Coach, your son-in-law plays in the NBA, and I did not know this statistic, so I looked it up. Who the greatest free throw shooter of all time? It's 90.4%. It's Steve Nash. Mark Price is among those guys. But they made 90% of their free throws over thousands of free throws. When you go 222 for 222, now that he's missed one, you wonder, he'll probably hit 150 in a row, on the numbers alone before he'll miss another one. So it really stands as one of those crazy 56 games in a row, DiMaggio, or, any crazy streak. To hit 222 extra points in a row is really an incredible thing.
Well, and you bring up an interesting one because in the basketball, you're right. You always wonder, because at least in basketball, there are no elements, the basket's the same height, use the same distance. There is no external factors like the wind or anything. A guy that's that good, what is it? Fatigue? Is it the pressure of the game? What changes when you've got that kind of stroke? What changes? And now for Justin Tucker, obviously, same way. He's got a good stroke going, but it was windy yesterday. Let's remember just how that wind was swirling, and because that is an additional factor. It'd be interesting, he's got to look at and go exactly what do I have to do? What would I change in my kick? And the typical answer, at least whether it's a golfer, free throw guy, or even a kicker that I hear is the key is you don't go and change. Because if you start to change, then now you're overcompensating and it just missed because I had the right stroke. I hit it in the right way. I got to have the confidence to go back and hit the next one the same way and not overthink that, well, this one that one went a little better, so I'm going to pull this one a little to the left. Now, all of a sudden, you're messing with your stroke.
How about this for your basketball soul? Because I see you tweeting about the Pistons all the time now. Shaquille O'Neal, 52.7% free throw shooter over 20 years in the league. It's amazing.
How can you not? Andre. We have Andre Drummond, and he's really struggled as well. How do you not? Just sheer pride goes. No, I'm gonna work on this. I'm gonna put my 10,000 hours in, and I'm gonna do because they're gonna foul me. And this could be a big part of it. I'm gonna start. You have the physical ability to do it. It's just a matter of the focus.
I want to see you and Popovich sit down now that you're a basketball mind.
He's
Coach,
my kind of guy.
I know
I would like that. I would love. He's old school. Going. I'm not putting up with all this new BS that you have to in coaching today. I'm going to do it the old way.
Well, that's your way as well. Always good to visit with you. Thanks for the visit. We'll send everybody out to Twitter and follow along. Tell me what you're doing on Thursday nights because I was a little confused. And I love Andrea Kramer. You love Andrea Kramer. I love Hannah Storm. You love Hannah Storm. They're doing something really unique, and I know you're a part of this too. We haven't talked about it.
And it's heading this way. It's Amazon Prime, and that whether it's Amazon, whether it's Google, whether it's Netflix, one of them is going to buy one of these packages in the NFL. Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night. There's just too much money. Well, on Amazon Prime, if you go to Thursday night, they are streaming the game, and you have 4 options to listen to the game. You can certainly listen to Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, and they do a great job. There's a Spanish-speaking, for obvious reasons, covering the game. There's a couple English guys that are soccer guys, I guess, that do the game. And it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, and I guess it's kind of fun. And if you just want to irreverently watch the game, that they're kind of funny to listen to. And then for quote-unquote the women's audience, or whoever wants to listen in, you got 2 legends, and Hannah Storm and Hall of Famer Andrea Kramer. And Andrew Brandt and I kind of just chip in occasionally when they want our observation on what's going on in the game to kind of give a little bit different football perspective at it. And Andrew Brandt from the, contract side and the player side, the agent side, just kind of a a more general view of the game as it's going on. So they ought to check it on Amazon Prime just to see what's going on.
By the way, no offense to you and your Twitter, but I always tell everyone Andrew Brandt is the best follow on Twitter for the National Football League, and I mean that. So I didn't even know Andrew was a part of it. So I will be tuning in on the first Thursday night game that I can stomach. I don't like these Thursday night games, Coach, and I know you probably don't like them either, but I think they're just so sloppy. You know, it's that's the when I get down and I'm reading Big Game right now, when I think of all the ails of the league, I think Thursday night football for me is right up there.
Well, but it's not going anywhere.
I know.
So you might as well enjoy it and kick back and and plus the picture quality. You go to Amazon Prime and watch it. The picture quality, what jumps out at me, watching on my computer, it's pretty darn good.
You know what I should do is make Thanksgiving dinner every Thursday. That way, every Thursday we feel like Thanksgiving, and I'd enjoy the game more, I think.
Yeah, you'd enjoy it better.
Be well. Say hello to everybody. He is Coach Billick, out on Twitter as well as at NFL Network, and you can find him on Thursday nights as well. Call a little football as it's Miami and Houston this week, and we've already done our Thursday night pennants back in week 2. I am Nestor. You can find me out on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube, WNST TV channel. We're out in the Bayou, Toyota.com, audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. Our morning newspaper ships digitally to your email inbox each and every morning at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness at PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life, guaranteed. Also brought to you by the Maryland Jockey Club and our friends at Laurel. Had a great time at the Maryland Million. If you have not been down to Laurel lately, you haven't been at all, get down there, check out the Vegas-style sports bar that they put together down there this weekend. They're racing again, and a talk show man won one of the big races on Maryland Million Day, and I cashed a ticket on the classic race. So there. $23. Better than not cashing a ticket. I've had those days as well. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 at WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports. Thanks, Coach.